Good morning. As Emily mentioned, my name's Steve Middleton. I'm the UK Growth Director for Kodiak Hub. For those of you that don't know who we are, we host a dedicated SRM platform. We work with procurement leaders, strategic buyers all over the world, and we help them transform information, supplier information, into intelligence, into impact. And today, my goal is to introduce each of you to the true transformational power and impact of having a dedicated SRM platform in the heart of your procurement ecosystem. Helping you, and this word orchestration was used a lot this morning, helping you to orchestrate performance and drive value and transformation within your businesses. And to help provide a little bit of inspiration for today's conversation, I want to start with a very short video that perfectly demonstrates the power of performance and efficiency. I told you it was a short video. What we've just witnessed there is the Red Bull team in 2019 setting, at the time, a brand new world record, changing 4 tires in less than 2 seconds. In fact, it took just 1.82 seconds. I heard this morning from one of the technicians that actually since then, this record has been broken. I think it's down to now 1.8 or even 1.79 seconds for that change. I think we'll all agree it's incredibly impressive to watch. It also perfectly demonstrates the power of performance and efficiency. However, by direct contrast, pit crews have not always been so efficient. Here we've got a clip from the 1950s.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get up.
Okay, I'm not going to make you sit through the entire video, but you have to trust me when I say that this pit stop goes on for a whole minute and 7 seconds. And during that time, they managed to change just 2 tires in that minute and 7 seconds. Less effective, certainly not performing in their best ways. So what's the difference? What changed between the 1950s through to today? Well, it's 2 things. But one, technology. More advanced, more powerful tools driving performance. More advanced tools driving performance. Do you imagine the Red Bull pit stop team using a rubber mallet to change tires? Probably not. The outcome would be very different. But also orchestration. That collective power. Everybody collectively striving to achieve the same goal. Understanding the importance of their role in doing so. Coming together as one. And again, it's like a perfect symphony. Imagine if one of that pit stop crew maybe got timing wrong or wasn't in the right place at the right time. It would have looked very, very different. And whilst Formula One has changed considerably over that time, so is procurement. Excuse the tenuous link. Procurement is changing and changing drastically. However, sadly, many are still acting like we're in the 1950s. Particularly when it comes to adopting new technologies and driving orchestration through the businesses. So let's have a quick look at what's changed. Well, first of all, I think we can all agree that procurement is far more now than what it used to be, the traditional role of cost reduction and risk management. There are new challenges, new requirements, new requests of us in the procurement situation. And I've broken this down into 3 buckets. The first one being transparency and traceability. There are new ESG regulations and market demands being put on us. We also look at the climate, supply chain resilience. I think we can all agree this last 5 years has been incredibly turbulent. And it's not going to stop. There's more coming. And of course, this need to innovate and drive and have more impact within an organization that falls upon. This is the reason why we talked about this morning, having a place at the table. You know, procurement now has a place at the table. With that comes responsibility. So we are responsible now for more sustainable trade. Let's also not forget this tsunami of legislation that's coming in. I'm not here to talk to you about legislations today, but we all recognize these, and there's an abundant more, and there's more coming as well. Let's also remember that 2024 is set to be a year of more significant change. Did you know that 60% of humanity live in a country that's going to have a national vote this year? That's going to have a significant impact on the landscape. And of course, this need to innovate and drive and do better. I mean, these are just two outstanding examples where Apple have recently launched their first carbon neutral watch. And BMW have unveiled a fully circular concept car that they intend to put into production by 2040. So for us to stay relevant and remain competitive, it's our responsibility to source better, to do things better, because I can promise you, this is just the beginning. So, I think we can all agree that in procurement, we need to change. We need to move from being reactive to proactive. We need to stop focusing on, or find alternative ways, should I say, of focusing on this operational risk management, bottom line stuff, so we can stay laser focused on the top line strategic stakeholder conversations, negotiations we need to have with our suppliers. And to do that, it means we need to take on some of these new technologies. We need to orchestrate our teams better so they're working collectively, again, striving to achieve that same goal. And if we really want to achieve that, if we really want to focus on this piece here, moving away from that daily grind, I know how important it is, but it's the boring stuff, right, that stops us doing the really exciting stuff. Then maybe, just maybe, SRM is that solution. So what is SRM? And I'm using this as a topic because my colleague and I were at an event at the end of last year, and there was a person on the stage talking about SRM, and the first thing that came out is, what the hell is SRM? Okay, so I'm here to explain to you what SRM is. And I want to introduce you to the SRM pyramid. At Kodiak Hub, this is how we describe the power of SRM. And I want to start, before I go into this, I might be biased here, but I genuinely believe that SRM is critical to every organization, big or small. However, even those that have it in some form within their organization, rarely is it used to its full potential. And I'm on a mission to change that. So for those of you in this room, and there's a lot of you here that have SRM in your business, my goal is to make sure you're fully connected to the true potential of SRM in your organization. For those of you that don't have SRM or even don't know what it is, my goal today is to open your eyes to a whole new world. And it's exciting. So, the SRM pyramid. We break this down into three very distinct areas. We've got operational SRM, we've got tactical SRM, and for me, what's most exciting, we've got strategic SRM. This is where we can really start to make a difference. This is when things get really, really cool within the business. I'm going to start by looking at both tactical and operational. And to begin this, I'd like to use a quote from our incredible founder and CEO, Marlin Schmidt. And she says this: procurement is drowning in information, yet they are still starved for knowledge. Just think about that for a moment. Almost every conversation that I have with a prospective client starts with scattered data. I've got buyers with information on their laptops. I'm getting information from the ERP solution. We've got risk data coming in from third parties. We've got responses coming from internal stakeholders. I've obviously got information coming in from suppliers. That challenge of scattered data, we have to find a way to harness that information better. How many of you does this look familiar? How many of you are still managing your supplier information in ERP solutions? And by the way, ERP solutions are not there to manage your suppliers. They do lots of really cool stuff, but that's not what they're built for. How many of you are drowning in Excel spreadsheets? Well, I know it's a lot of you, because in a recent survey that we carried out, it told us that 76% of procurement teams are still managing their suppliers using Excel spreadsheets or homegrown solutions. It's crazy. Here we are talking about AI, yet we're still managing suppliers in Excel spreadsheets. It's nuts. And I'm sorry, but we're not going to make our way up that SRM pyramid using these legacy solutions. We need to change. We need to move on. So what is the difference between Excel hell and SRM excellence? Well, it's a couple of things. First of all, the role of an SRM is to consolidate. You want to create that single source of truth. All your supplier data, all your supplier information in one place. But it's more than that. And I said this at the very beginning. It's about turning that information, that tsunami of information, that swamp of information that we have in all these different places, and change that into intelligence, knowledge, understanding of our suppliers. And by the way, when I say all information, I mean all information. Now, I can't talk for every SRM platform. And by the way, Kodiak Hub, we're not the only SRM platform out there. Please go out and find your own. We've all got our own unique USPs. But at Kodiak Hub, this is the kind of architecture that we expect. Not always from day one. Sometimes it's a journey. Again, it goes a journey of prioritization. What do we need, and then where do we grow? Where do we end up in a year, 2 years, 3 years' time? But you want to be getting data over from your existing tech stack, so your ERP solution. And these technologies should be talking to each other. It's not just pulling, it's pushing as well. You've got your enterprise data lakes. You've obviously got supplier information. Again, guess what? Automated. Wow, they send something to you. It's not this downloading stuff and pre-populating. If something comes through from your supplier, it should automatically populate and drive that next activity. You don't drive the SRM. The SRM's there to drive you. It's about efficiency. But also you want that experience data coming from internal stakeholders, particularly when we're talking about performance. Just because someone's delivering a product on time doesn't mean they're great. They might deliver it on time, but it's to the wrong warehouse. Or it's taken 35 calls in order to get that product on time. Or when there's a problem or a query, it takes them 16 weeks to get back to you. That's the kind of experience data that you need to understand from your internal stakeholders. You can quantify that stuff, again, in SRM. You also got things like third-party data, so risk data, financial data, reporting, analytics, screening. Pull it in. Put some ratings against it. But also your own licenses. Again, a dynamic, smart SRM is not here to dictate to you on how you run your business. It's about understanding what you've got in place today and streamlining it. So if you're using Dun & Bradstreet, Bureau van Dijk, whatever it is for your financial data, if you've got DocuSign for managing your contracts and signatures, great. Plug it in. It's not about reinventing the wheel. Because again, when we talk about change, and this was spoke about this morning, change is a challenge. Change is difficult. So keep it familiar at the same time. But when you do this, then it gets really exciting. Because then you get something that looks like this. And we all talked about data this morning. It was like a big thing. In fact, I think it was the big green circle in the top right-hand corner that everybody wants. More clear data. Well, this is what you're going to get. Imagine a world where your supplier completes a self-registration and everything just pre-populates in your solution. Imagine a world that once they've put their location in, you immediately get country-related risk. The environment that they're exposed to, the conditions that are impacting that supplier. Imagine then, because they put in their SKU number or their reference number as a business, we've got financial information being pulled through, media screening, sanctions, PEPs, all coming in. You're doing nothing. It just enters the system. Then you're getting information back from your supplier, and every data point that you're getting back from your supplier is weighted and rated. What does that mean? Well, you don't need to go through 300 lines of data. You're just looking at a score. The SRM will pick out any areas which fall above or below your acceptance criteria. Same with performance ratings. We'll go into that a little bit later on. A global rating, those that have this absolutely nailed down, that's the only number that matters. That number in the top right. Imagine having, again, I think it was 18,000 suppliers, one of them mentioned this morning. Imagine only have to worry about one number for each of those suppliers. It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? It's possible. You've got supplier information being pushed and pulled through from your ERP. It could be spend data. It could be anything basic like an email address or a phone number or a contact name or a position. But again, that single source of truth. Everything's talking to each other. Everything's being orchestrated between your technologies. You've got every assessment, every audit, every evaluation that's ever been carried out with your supplier in one view. You can click any one of these. Bang, it's open. So again, Connect is no longer saved on someone's hard drive in the Middle East or over in North America or what other departments or offices you might have. That's all within the SRM. You've also got contracts and documents. It seems the simplest thing, right? But imagine having a world where every single contract you have that has an expiry date is managed through your SRM. And maybe 3 to 4 weeks before it's due to expire, it automatically requests an updated version from your supplier. Amazing, right? Simple, but it works. Actions, collaboration. You know, how many of us are having conversations with suppliers that nobody else knows about? How many of you are having really important dialogue on email that nobody else knows about? I mean, it sounds awful. Imagine if you were run over by a bus. Imagine if you left that business. You've just left that organization exposed. Every piece of documentation, every action, every collaboration, every conversation should run through your SRM. And much, much more. I'm just touching on the basics. Excuse me. That's better. Right. So, benefits of smart SRM. I'm going to cover this really quickly. Single source of truth. I've just showcased that within the last diagram. We've got information from our clients that they are 70% faster on their onboarding because we're automating the whole process. 50% cost savings just on manual tasks because we're automating the process. Improving efficiency and internal collaboration because we've got all that collaboration, all that conversation happening in one place. Everybody's always connected. Stronger basis for supply segmentation. Categorization. You know, again, the limits of your imagination. But equally, using AI, you know, we can help you to automatically segment your suppliers based on specific data points. Simplify compliance verifications. Automated 360-degree view risk assessments. Improve data and accuracy completeness. And this is the most important one, visualization. Visualizing of data. Think of the convenience of having everything in one view, helping you to make faster, smarter sourcing decisions. That's the power of an SRM. And by the way, we've only covered off tactical and operational. So we've looked at having your supply information in one place. We've looked at how your supply discovery and onboarding could be automated. We've now turned your information into knowledge, so we know more about our suppliers. We've got risk under control because it's all being managed through the SRM. So now let's look at strategic. And this is what I said earlier. This is my favorite part of SRM because this is when it starts to get really exciting because this is where we start to now really pin down on the performance of our suppliers. But also we look at how we collaborate and innovate with our suppliers. So let's dive into performance. Quick question, and I'm not going to embarrass you, ask you to put your hands up or anything like that, but just think about this for a moment. How many of you today can genuinely say that you are successfully managing the performance of your suppliers in a way that's driving the decisions in your organization? Not talking about reactive, oh yeah, they did something great last week. Genuinely, you are at a point where you've got predictable analytics. You've got trends under control. You know what conduct and behaviors look like within good and bad suppliers. How many of you today are accurately doing that within your businesses? Say, I'm not asking you to put your hands up, but I imagine it's not very many. Anyway, so I want you to remember this statement from Peter Drucker. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And I'm going to take that one step further. What you can measure, you can improve. What you can measure consistently, you can improve exponentially. That's the importance of measuring. And if you want to achieve results like this, admittedly, this was over a 70-year process. Hopefully now with AI and technology, we could be a bit quicker. But if you want to do things like this, we have to agree that measuring performance is super important. In fact, it's critical. So, how do you measure performance? Well, I'm going to show you this in 6, what I believe to be very easy steps. And once you've got the principles in place, again, guess what? Most of this is going to be automated for you. Step 1, we need to agree that when we're measuring performance, this is not just hard data we're pulling from your ERP. We want to get the soft stuff as well. So you want information back from your internal stakeholders. You want information back from your suppliers. And of course, you want links in with your existing tech stack. Once you've done that, you want to align on the specific areas, the core areas that you want to be managing, the KPIs that are super important. Again, I think it was mentioned this morning, only measure the pieces that are going to make a real difference. Think about it, particularly if you're going to get information back from your suppliers. Supplier fatigue is a real challenge, okay? Getting them to respond to a questionnaire today is much harder than it was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So we need to be very conscious of that. So let's think about that when we're talking about getting information back. Is this something that's going to drive an action, drive a change? Because once you do that, then you can start to drill down. Again, you've got different rating areas here. You've got, again, for those at the back, quality, performance, delivery, commercial, innovation, collaboration, sustainability. But this is where the magic happens. If you categorize your suppliers, some of your suppliers, it might be quality that's super important. But for others, it might be innovation because you want to drive new products or new services or be quicker, faster, more responsive. So you can weight the responses. So it's not just about putting a rating behind each response or each data value. It's also about weighting that response to make sure that, again, the real core areas are affecting that overall score more than the rest. And then step 5, you also want to be measuring qualitative and quantitative data. So it's not just about data points, it's also about that human element as well. We're getting that insight from suppliers or from internal stakeholders. Like I mentioned before, their response times aren't as great, or this has really changed, etc. So we're capturing that data, again, with the SRM, and we're helping that to drive the decisions we're making with those suppliers. And of course, you want to be able to monitor that continuously over time, because perception is a killer. When you first engage with a supplier, your perception is maybe that they're doing a great job. And maybe they did 2 years ago. But because you had that perception of that supplier, 2 years later, our perception is still the same. It's up here. They're amazing. We can always rely on those guys. But because you're not measuring them, they may have filtered slowly over that 2-year period. So again, by measuring consistently over time, it gives you that ability to see, well, where were the peaks? Where were the troughs? What changed? And you can hold your suppliers accountable. And this is no longer an emotional conversation. This is a data-driven conversation, which I'm going to get into in a moment. So finally, what you want to do then is put that performance data alongside the other data points. So you've got your country-related risk. You've got your sustainable practices, make sure they're meeting your acceptance criteria, and of course, performance in the middle. You're now building that 360-degree view of your supplier. And again, most of that process is automated for you. And that then takes me on to collaboration and innovation, because we've got all this data. We've been really clear from the offset. We've spoken with our suppliers, our internal stakeholders, and what we're going to measure. What's super important to us and to them. And that's going to drive greater collaboration with your suppliers. But please remember, suppliers are friends, not food. Okay? Be nice to your suppliers, and they'll be nice to you. But also, when we talk about collaboration, I'm not just talking about supplier collaboration. I'm also talking about internal collaboration. Because, again, some statistics here from a recent survey, 50% of respondents said there are at least 6 approval points within an organization before a new supplier gets onboarded. 27% said it was significantly higher than that. I think it was 10 proof points. Again, some of my slides have moved around, I think, since we've changed over. But you are the conduit. Again, SRM, you as procurement leaders, you are that driver between internal and external collaboration. And again, using an SRM, it's going to help you to do that. And not only just that, it's tracked and traced within the SRM. So if you get that to that point where someone's looking to audit something, or you need to proof point something, you have it there on the screen instantly. You haven't got to start fishing through emails or conversations or notebooks. So what is the difference between transactional and transformational collaboration? Well, again, this is what I see. First of all, if you have 16,000 suppliers, it's not realistic to think that you're going to have, a strategic relationship with every single one of them. It starts off by identifying those strategic partners, those that align with your organization, those that are critical in terms with the growth of your business, they're the ones that you want to get super close to and become their customer of choice. Why is that important? Well, a couple of things. One, imagine that their stock levels are low. Who they're going to let know first? Who's going to get that stock? Imagine they've got a new product or a new service or a new line, or there's something they want to test out. Who's the person that they're going to come to? If you are their customer of choice, they come to you first. Again, my slides are moving all over the place. And then finally, that enables you to innovate and grow together. And that's super important. So, back into the SRM pyramid. We've covered off operational, tactical, and strategic. Now I want to look at is what's the impact? What's the difference that an SRM has made to your organization? And when we talk about impact, we break it down into 3 areas: people, planet, and profit. But remember, this is only possible in partnership with your suppliers. So let's start with people first. For every 100,000 suppliers that are successfully managed within a dedicated SRM platform, you have the opportunity, or we are impacting 10 million sub-suppliers that are putting in place more sustainable business practices. As a result, there are 500 million employees working in safer, healthier, more sound workplaces. But then think of their families, their lives. Think about the people at home. That's 2 billion people we have the opportunity to impact. So think about that for a moment. For every 100,000 suppliers that are successfully managed within an SRM solution, you have the ability to impact up to 2 billion people on the planet. It's quite important, I think. Let's look at the planet impact. Climate change. It's a race against time. And I'm using the Formula One. Again, it's a race against time. But did you know that Formula One have recently made a pledge to become net zero on emissions by 2030? If Formula One can do it, we can push our suppliers to do the same. And it's about that 1-2% difference. We're not looking for giant leaps here. If every one of us here got 10% of their suppliers to make a 1 or 2% difference, think of the impact that would have on the planet. Again, we're responsible for that. This is no longer just about risk management and cost line reduction. There's so much more to our role. And finally, profit. Let's go through this. If we've got all your information in one place, the efficiency that's going to drive. If you've got supplier discovery and onboarding automated, the efficiency that's going to drive. We know your customers better or your suppliers better because, again, we've turned that information into real knowledge. We've got all our risk on hand and in hand. What does that mean? We're not leaving ourselves exposed. We've got supplier performance being managed to the nitty-gritty. And again, we're collaborating, we're innovating better with our suppliers. All of that is going to drive profit into your organization. So whenever anyone talks to me about ROI, and ROI was mentioned this morning, we know how important it is. On every single case, I can drive ROI. So there we have it. SRM, the engine to supercharge performance and orchestrate sustainable value and efficiency within your organization. So maybe tomorrow, when you're sat back at your desks and you're about to dive into Excel spreadsheet number 15, and you're wondering why the data doesn't add up, or you're trying to find a document that's been lost in SharePoint, or you're trying to integrate with or get hold of a supplier and you realize the phone number's out of date, all this simple stuff, maybe, just maybe there's an alternative, and maybe SRM's something worth looking at. Thank you.